aggressively and openly trying to regain power now. He just wrote it down, pushing to decertify the 2020 election. Trump sent a letter riddled with lies to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, asking him to decertify the results in Georgia, citing all sorts of debunked claims. Trump writes, "I would respectfully request that your department check this and, if true, start the process of decertifying the election or whatever the correct legal remedy is and announce the true winner." Remember, the former president is under investigation in Georgia for trying to muscle officials to overturn the election there. Joining us now, CNN political analyst and Washington correspondent for the New York Times, Maggie Haberman, and CNN senior political analyst John Avlon. Maggie, what's the most interesting thing about this letter to you?
That it's on paper. That's the most interesting thing. No, in all seriousness, I mean, this is something that Donald Trump has been saying privately for a while, and it's been a slow escalation. It started with the fantasy that Mike Lindell, the MyPillow CEO, had been pushing that Trump would be reinstated in August. Trump was, murmuring that to people and trying to get others to say that out loud. When that obviously passed us by, August is over, he started focusing on decertification in a handful of states based on what are not actually audits. These are just investigations of some kind that don't have any legal binding, but that some state legislatures are going along with. Now he's putting this down on paper. I spoke to some of his folks about this over the weekend, and the response that I got was, this is really, really about, boosting his base, and, he's targeting Raffensperger, and that sounds like four-dimensional chess to me. I mean, basically, he's putting down that he wants the election to be undone. Now, it's not the same as when he was in office and pressuring the Secretary of State to do that, but it is still really jarring, and there are people out there, whether he believes this or not, sort of doesn't matter anymore. There are his followers who are not going to understand that he might not believe it.
Yeah, but I mean, there are a couple big differences, right? First of all, he's under investigation for election interference. So a man under investigation for election interference is continuing to ask for the election to be decertified, i.e. sort of posthumously trying to interfere with the election. Is this a setup for an insanity defense? Because he actually has legal culpability. He's no longer president of the United States. He's not shielded. So he's certainly making, not that he ever thinks about whether he's making his lawyer's case more difficult, but he's making it doubly difficult. And so there's real jeopardy as well as threat, I think, to the country and the republic on this. And I think it increases the reason why there needs to be legal accountability, why this isn't academic, because it's clear he doesn't care. He does not believe he will ever be held accountable. And until someone shows him he's wrong, he's going to continue behaving in ways that destroy our democracy.
It certainly speaks to motive, right? I mean, he actually puts it down on paper. So now there's no doubt, not that there ever was, frankly, about what he was trying to do in the previous phone calls to Raffensperger there. And Maggie, what is, Republicans try to explain away what Trump has done and is doing. Yet it's on paper now. He's trying to throw out the election.
It was pretty jarring to see it floating around over the weekend and realize that I don't think a single Republican talked about this. I actually really didn't see Democrats talking about it either, frankly. And I think what you're seeing is this ongoing uncertainty, both from Democrats and from Republicans, for whom he remains the leader of their party until there is another nominee. But Democrats are also unsure of how to go about dealing with this, because when somebody has no shame and is willing to just do whatever they want, that, gives them an edge in politics. And Democrats are still grappling with, how do you deal with this without spreading misinformation? How do you deal with this without giving him negative attention, which is what he wants? He would probably be enjoying us talking about this right now because it's still a focus on him and he's been out of the limelight. But it's at a certain point, everyone averting their gaze doesn't really do much either.
Nope. Yeah, look, I mean, he is saying the quiet part out loud in the context of investigation. As long as people are cowed by him, he will continue to accumulate power. Like, this is the oldest lesson in the book that kids in a schoolyard know.
Well, there's also one other point we should make, which is that last week, Anthony Gonzalez, who is the sitting congressman who voted against him in impeachment, got out of his race because he's being challenged by Max Miller, who is a very Trumpy candidate, former White House aide. That is how Trump starts to amass power again, is in these small increments.
Yeah. And look, we know this is now a central tenet in the Republican Party, belief in the Republican Party, where 78% in our recent poll said that they don't think Joe Biden won the election.
And so when Bill Cassidy goes on air and says, listen, if we're bullied, we're going to lose, guess what? They're being bullied. And guess what? Bullies only respond to strength. Full stop.